This is the November 7th Select Board meeting, and thank you all for coming. And so we will start with a public hearing. I move we open the continuation hearing from October 3rd, 2024 to consider the application of Dean P. Simini, I hope I did right, and Elizabeth A. Strand for property located at 12 Larrywog Crossroad, and to incorporate the notice of the hearing into this meeting minutes.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote.
Aye, Chuck. Aye, Patrick.
Aye, Jamie. The following procedures will be followed. 1, testimony will be limited to the issues directly related to the subject matter. Only one person will be permitted to speak at one time. All discussion will go through the chair. All parties will conduct themselves civilly. Argument between parties will not be permitted. Is the applicant present?
I'm presenting on behalf of the property.
Okay, and you may introduce yourself
Sure.
and start.
Good evening, and thank you for having me here. I'm Michael Valenti. I'm the principal at MBA Design Build. We're a design and general contracting company, design and build. I'm joined by the project architect, Dan Shank. He's the one that's been designing some of this work, so he's here to assist me. We're here for a special permit for the reconstruction, extension, and or change of use of an existing residential structure located at 12 Larrywog Crossroad here in Stockbridge. I'm here on behalf of the clients, Elizabeth Strand and Dean Simini. I believe, Dean, are you here? Middle on the screen over there.
Yes, I am. Hello.
Introduce
Evening.
yourself.
Hi, I'm Dean Simini. Pleasure to meet you.
So anyways, Dean's here to answer any questions you may have that I can't answer as a property owner. I know they provided a letter, which I hope you got to read, to kind of introduce himself and his history in the area. Dean grew up here, so he is, I would consider local, and he's trying to come back home. So anyways, I'd like to kind of just describe the project, the existing lot briefly. This is a property map or a survey of the subject property in the area of the reconstruction project. It has frontage on Larrywog Crossroad as well as some frontage down on North Church Street. You can see this in pink here is kind of the subject area of this plan. The lot does extend down further down to North Church Street. So we have frontage, from this point all the way down to here. It's located in the R4 zoning district. And on the property, there's an existing 2-car, 620 square foot residential garage, which is identified as this orange square right here. The property once contained a single family home that was demolished years ago, still remnants of the foundation down in this area. In addition to, our front setback line that we've drawn here, I've also indicated the wetland boundary here, as well as the 100-foot wetland buffer zone. I'll kind of come back to that later. But in reality, even though this is an 8-acre lot, this area here in which I'm using my pencil here is only 0.37 acres in size. So that's kind of what we consider our by right development area for this lot.
But
I haven't seen
Question?
you said that the foundation is outside of that area. The old,
I have a plan that shows the foundation. I'll bring it up.
the old foundation.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even see it. I think it's filled in and it's
No. But pointed.
right, it's
Okay.
currently right here.
All right.
Probably half on, half off that buffer zone. Anyway, to get into the nonconformity, the existing nonconformity, the garage structure is currently considered pre-existing nonconforming, as it doesn't meet the requirement for front setback. You can see the red line, which is the 50-foot front setback, goes right through the building. Currently, the building is 31.7 feet from the property line, so you're about 18.3 feet into that setback line. What's interesting too is you can also consider the use pre-existing non-conforming because there used to be an accessory garage to a house that's no longer there. So it's kind of like we're just, you couldn't go and just permit a two residential garage without having a house on the property. It's just worth mentioning. So when they demolished that old house, it kind of created that nonconformity. I'd like to talk about the proposed project. The proposed project is to demolish the existing two-car garage and reconstruct a new structure in the same footprint, and then slightly extend it 4 feet into the developable area, so outside the setback. So I don't think that's necessarily a concern. The area of concern is kind of this half that garage that's currently in the setback there. And we'd like to change the use of it. So instead of it being a two-car garage, we'd like it to be a one-car garage with a small dwelling unit. It's not even a one bedroom. It's like a studio, living space, bathroom type space for this, but it would be considered per the bylaw a dwelling unit. Let's flip this over to the next page. We can show you the building plans. So Daniel took his time to go draw the existing garage. We have an existing drawing of the garage. You can see it's currently about 13'6" in building height there. Otherwise, fairly typical looking garage. It's what we'd like to do is extend the height of this structure, and also we can flip to the next page. Reconstruct it. So what I've done here is this is the new structure. So you have all the different elevations, but I kind of want to draw your attention to the side elevations, because those are where that kind of setback line goes through the structure. And in green, I've highlighted whether the old structure is, right? This is the old garage, and then the new portion we're proposing, inside of that, and then also extending vertically in this space. The rest of this from here over would be considered in the developable area of the lot. We're not proposing to be any closer to the front setback or road than what's existing. We were going to stay the same distance that the structure currently is. Let's see, I think it's the next, can you go 2 pages? I gave an addendum to the board sometime last week because I wanted to clarify something about the project. And I'll talk about it on here, but this is phase 1 of a 2-part project that's already been permitted through conservation. What we'd like to do is start with this project, which is the reconstruction of this building. And then there's also and this is an older plan that's been permitted through conservation. We actually have a newer version of this coming, which I do have if you're interested, but we are proposing like a main house here to go with this at a future date. They'd like to come in, move into this house, establish residence, back in Massachusetts, and build this at a later date. And I brought up that line, that developable area before, that 0.37 or 15,963.38 square feet.
That's not the size of the house.
No, that's the size. This is the size of this red area. And you'll see, we've got these 8 acres, but we're really constricted by our setbacks and by the wetlands. And you'll see that everything we're trying to do, every building is within this, red line, because that's kind of where we are forced to create this thing. And so when looking at this, and the reason I say this is we have to kind of, we're looking at this application to be judged, on the application itself. But I want to tell you where we're going, because you may say, well, why do you have to be here? Why can't you put this over here? That's because there's a lot, we'd like to accomplish here. And we thought by taking a structure and a footprint that's already been developed and redevelop it would be an appropriate use of the space. And that's because,
What's the orange?
Orange is the septic field. So this is a septic system for the 2 properties. So that also has to be within this red line, right? Remember that old foundation I was talking about?
Not a ton sewer there?
There's no ton sewer. There's septic system proposed here, and there's a well proposed over here. Does that make sense? Do we get, I can keep going? All right, so let's see. Like I said before, the project's this is actually the plan from the notice of intent through conservation. So this project has an ANRAD, which is basically where they go and identify the wetlands boundaries and flag it, come up with this boundary, which is approved by conservation. A notice of intent, which is basically the permitting process of requesting to do this work this close to the buffer. All of our structures are within this area, but there's areas that will be disturbed during construction that we have to restore and repair later. And it's also subject to your stormwater bylaw, right? You guys have a bylaw which requires the project to undergo a stormwater review. So all three of those approvals are already done for this entire property. Again, this property is subject tonight because it's in the setback. This building would be a by right use, and we'd be able to get a permit for that at a later date without coming back here. But I kind of want to show our cards and let you know what we're doing because it helps explain the project, I think. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. I'll kind of get into the zoning. Let's flip back to page 1 because that's what we're kind of talking about. We'd like to, demolish and reconstruct a structure in the setback. So we are choosing to comply with section 2.2 of the bylaw. If you don't mind, I'll just kind of read that so I can kind of highlight it. The select board may authorize by special permit any change, extension, and by extension, we're kind of going up, extending vertically, alteration or reconstruction, which is also the case, of a pre-existing non-conforming structure or use to provide for its use for a substantially different purpose or for the same purpose in a substantially different manner, or as to a substantially greater extent if this such change, extension, alteration, reconstruction will not be in a greater nonconformity with open space, yard, and off-street parking requirements or any other requirement of this bylaw, provided that the selectmen find in accordance with chapter 48 of the general laws that such extension, this is important, that such extension, alteration, reconstruction will not be more detrimental than the pre-existing non-conforming structure or use to the neighborhood. In addition to that, it reads, the addition of a second story to a pre-existing non-conforming structure, provided that such structure's footprint does not change, shall be deemed not to be in greater nonconformity with open space and yard requirements. So, there is a section here that does allow for us to extend the structure vertically and add a second story, and there would be no issue with any of the open space and yard requirements. We're asking to reconstruct, extend vertically, which is allowed by this bylaw. And we would argue that and this is what's important, that the structure is not any more detrimental to the pre-existing non-conforming nature of the structure to the neighborhood. So, a couple of things to note, the existing structure is in complete repair. Its reconstruction will eventually improve the surrounding and add value to the neighborhood. It's also, we're proposing a single family home in a neighborhood full of single family homes, which would make it consistent with the character of this neighborhood. You do have several, criteria, which a special permit is judged by, and which you're probably going to go through tonight. So if you don't mind, I'd like to kind of give you a little ammunition for that, if that's okay. There's 5 criteria, like I said. Number 1, in compliance with all provisions and requirements of this bylaw and in harmony with its intent, general intent and purpose. As I described previously, the project will not increase the non-conforming, non-conforming the project and make the parcel more compliant by establishing by right use. Is essential or desirable, this is number 2, essential or desirable to the public convenience or welfare at the proposed location. The existing residential structure is in is in disrepair. Its reconstruction will add value to the surrounding area, improve the quality of the neighborhood, and contribute financially to the town by increasing assessed value and property taxes. Number 3, will not be detrimental to adjacent uses or to the establishment or future character of the neighborhood. Project will maintain the residential use, and the design will provide, harmony with character of the neighborhood. We're using standing seam roofs and vertical wood siding, typical fenestration details. We're not proposing anything that would be out of place or character in this, part of the planet. Number 4, will not create undue traffic congestion or unduly impair pedestrian safety. Again, it's a residential street. We're proposing a residential use. There's no sidewalks or heavily traveled streets or schools in the area. So I wouldn't really imply that the pedestrian safety would be much of an issue here. And then lastly, it will not, for number 5, will not overload any public water, drainage, or sewer systems or any other municipal facility to such extent that the proposed use of any existing use in the immediate area or in any other area of the town will be unduly subject to the hazards affecting public health, safety, or general welfare. Property won't be served by town sewer, won't be served by town water. Those will both be on site and private. And again, it's a single family use in a neighborhood and won't affect any town services more than this neighborhood already does. Another thing too is we do have our stormwater permit, so we've already looked at the drainage and runoff portion of this project. Just a couple more notes and then I'll let you guys ask questions and deliberate, but, the number one, and the owners have provided this information too, this is not to be used as a short-term rental in the event that this main house is completed. The intention of this, what we're gonna call, guest house is for one or two things. When families visiting, they have a place to stay or guests to stay. And number two, they plan on aging in place here. So if they have a healthcare provider, they would stay over here. Another thing to mention is, when this structure is built, this would be considered the single family home primary use. This would have to shift to an accessory use. So we'd either do that by one of two ways. One would be you take the cooking facilities out of the place, make it a true guest house. This can't be considered a dwelling unit. Or two, Massachusetts now has the accessory dwelling unit bylaw coming into effect, I believe, in February this year. So there's actually going to be a permit process for having a main use with an accessory dwelling use that would be required in all municipalities in Massachusetts. Other things to mention, I already talked about Concom. We do have two letters of support, three letters of support from two different properties. The Greendales on 9 Church Street, we've included as letter of support in the addendum, as well as the Browns at 17 Prospect Hill. Anyways, that kind of concludes my presentation. Happy to answer some questions.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask if anyone wishes to speak in favor of this project. All right, seeing none. I'm going to ask if anyone wishes to speak in opposition of this project. Seeing none. All right. I move that we close the evidentiary portion of the hearing and move to deliberation by the board.
And then we ask questions during deliberation.
Oh, I do?
Or first ask.
Oh, I thought
If
then
you
we
guys
did.
want any questions.
Oh,
Yeah, you can.
okay, go ahead. Does anyone from the board have questions?
I do. Oh,
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
first. Okay. A couple of things. One, you mentioned ADU by right. I just would point out that obviously the setback requirements are still in place, as I understand it, with ADU by right coming in February. That doesn't signal opposition. I just wanted to clarify that for the public. My question for you, a couple of questions. One, you mentioned the intent in the application is not to use it as a short-term rental. Would that suggest your support for a deed restriction as part of the special permit that it not be used as a short-term rental?
I'm not sure that would be a deed restriction, but maybe
Well, I'm
a
asking-
condition of the special permit or something of that
I'm
nature.
asking if you'd be willing to.
I think I'd have to be, the owner would have to decide.
Well, I'd like to-
I've never done it as a deed restriction personally, so I'm not familiar with it. Has that been enacted here before? Okay, I haven't done it before. Dean?
Yeah, hi, Dean Simony. Yeah, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't. We don't have any intention to use it as a short-term rental. So I don't know that we're opposed to that.
Well, I mean, if we make it that a condition of the permit, then obviously, then it's in your court,
I
but
think that's up to you, Dean, if you want to have it deed restricted, which would probably be if you were in the intention that you would sell it, that would carry on to the next owner and would probably have a 50-year clock on it, right? Is that how those?
not a lawyer.
Yeah, me neither. So we're done. Is there any lawyers here that tell us? There's got to be one. No? Okay.
Then I have no other questions.
All right. And I also wanted to point out that with the change in adding a level to it, you go into 1,400 square feet, and the new bylaw will, for ADUs, will be 900, even if you take out the kitchen space. So that's something we would have to. And also, one of the problems is that because it's already in non-compliance, it sets a precedent for other building lots that, we did it for so-and-so. And so that is a consideration.
I understand that. That's why we're here asking permission. I don't, it's not, I'm not a.
So what will be the drawback of moving that over to that corner within the limits?
Well, like I said, if we go back to the other one, the sites were already jammed with stuff, the septic system, the proposed house. It's interesting. I actually went to the Conservation Commission for a different project recently. And I asked them, because we obviously have some, there could be some wetlands issues in regard to that too, especially with the slope and the stormwater and things like that.
Did the Zoom just freeze for everybody who's online?
It did on my end.
Yeah, it looks like we maybe even lost connection.
Yeah, I'll send a text.
Okay. Thank you.
I
There you
guess-
go. Technology.
And I
dropped.
just so the public knows that, conservation, the application is almost 2 years old. It was August 3rd of 2022.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that. I did at that meeting that I mentioned, introduce ourselves as the general contractors of the project. And, it was interesting, I actually was there to see another project, which maybe they weren't so happy about. And they said, I really wish people would come in here before they start the project. And, so they can kind of go over what entails the permit and what we should do, so I was like, I'll come in and to you guys and make sure we're following the rules. Both Elizabeth and Dean are really trying to keep as many trees as possible. It's one of those projects where they want to feel nestled in the woods there. So I'll be working tightly with conservation on this one to make sure we're those regulations, conditions.
Anyone else have more questions? Patrick?
No.
Chuck?
Good.
No,
Do I close it now?
or, yeah. the
Okay.
evidentiary portion.
So now I move that we close the evidentiary portion of the hearing and move to deliberation by the board. May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote.
I check.
Hi, Jamie. Okay, we can deliberate. Do anyone have thoughts?
There's an existing structure. It's not going to be any more non-conforming. I like if we permit it now and they're willing to do the deed restriction that keeps, frankly, the short-term rentals we get complaints all over town about. And if they're willing to do that, I think it's a win for the neighborhood.
All right. I do know that with conservation, we do get bamboozled a lot of times by these projects that they start small and they end up, the ending is really big or not, it's different. And that it's so far out, it's 18 feet out of compliance. And the water runoff, because it's a higher roof, it's a bigger building. It is a concern with already going to put a big house on the other part of the acreage.
Ron, guys, you're on Concom, right?
Can we, no, you
Can we
can't.
ask?
No, you
if it's
can't.
But you shouldn't have asked during
The meeting, okay, I'm just wondering if it was 2 years ago, the Comcom approved this?
Mhm. It's in our
You said
packet.
you made changes to the main dwelling?
If anything, it's smaller.
Okay,
There is the copy of the approved stormwater permit already done, if I'm allowed to speak.
Look, I think the other consideration for this applicant is that the goal of the house is to either be a guest house, that's fine. But especially for an elderly caregiver, I'd like people to be able to age in place. And I think that is, they're with taking the short-term rental off the table and using it as a caregiver house, I certainly have no problem with that.
Chuck, do you have anything?
as long as that's in the deed,
Yeah, I think if we have it written down,
that it's either how do you want to put it?
I think it should be available for either year-round rental, not non-short-term rental, year-round rental, or as a non-rental, or, not rental at all.
So you need a motion, place in whatever condition.
Right, I get it.
As you.
I mean, I'm asking if it's acceptable too.
Mhm.
So the basically, a future owner could rent it out year round, or could, use it as accessory for their own use.
Can I ask a question?
No, that portion.
you're open.
I make a motion that we have a bunch of findings we need to make anyway, that we approve with the condition that there be a deed restriction put in place that allows for only a year-round rental or for use as a non-rental, accessory unit. Or for primary rental unit, so it's, you get the.
A second.
I'll second that.
Roll call vote.
Hi, Patrick.
Hi, Chuck.
Hi, Jamie. Now do I close it?
Yep.
So I will close the public hearing.
And do we have to do the findings or?
We have to go.
You already
through-
addressed all the findings, so.
So we don't have to go. through.
Okay, got it.
We got them.
Yep.
Very good.
Put them right in the permit. That's-
All right, so I close the public hearing. So I have a second.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Hi, Patrick.
Jamie, thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, folks. We're excited. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
You too.
Yeah.
All right.
Which one goes for Larry Walk?
To one of them.
All right. So I move, we open the hearing to consider the petition of National Grid to install one SO pole on Larry Wald Cross Road, beginning at a point approximately 645 feet east of the center line of the intersection of Larry Wald Cross Road, and install pole number 6-1 with anchor for new service at 12 Larry Wald Cross Road.
No, it'll be electric. I'll second.
And we have to do roll call?
Hi, Patrick.
Okay. So, anything,
You have National Grid.
Yeah.
Is he here?
App presentation.
I'm online. I'm here for any questions. If anybody has any, should be pretty straightforward. Just like how you read a description for a new service pole to feed this new property.
okay.
I make a motion to approve. Or do you have to close the hearing first?
Don't I have to go through
No, it's
all
not
the
a-
things?
Yeah. Yeah, it was
Okay.
a public hearing.
So the applicant is present. Are there any questions from the board? Anybody have any questions?
Ron.
No.
Yeah, I know, but does
Board
anyone?
first.
There any
No,
tree
no.
clearing valves with this poles?
Is there any tree clearing to get this pole in, the wires?
Shouldn't be. Maybe like there shouldn't be like any tree clearing. Maybe like a limb or two. I tried to stake the pole to the road, but not too close to where it'd be an issue. But yeah, shouldn't need to be like actual tree being taken down.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
Was it a shouldn't or won't?
You know, does anyone
Well,
wish?
No, I'm serious.
It's minor.
All right.
Does anyone wish to speak in favor? Okay. Anyone want to say anything in opposition? Seeing none. Wow. I move we close the evidentiary portion of the hearing and move to deliberation by the board. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Hi, Chuck.
Can we condition it? I think you should come back if there's trees that we gotta cut down.
Don't we have to first do the roll call, then you can make?
Yeah.
You still have to do the roll call.
All right, I patch it.
Aye, Jamie.
Hi, Chuck.
So now you can deliberate. Go ahead.
I'm just, if we're not gonna have a tree, then I think if there are trees that have to come down, we should just review them before we permit it. So I make a motion to approve subject to no trees being taken down.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote.
I patch it.
Hi, Chuck.
Aye, Jamie. And now I can close the public hearing, or do I do the next one?
Close this hearing.
Okay. Okay, so I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have a second. Roll call vote.
Hi, Chuck.
I patch it.
Aye, Jamie. Thank you. Second poll hearing. I move that we open the hearing to consider the petition of National Grid to install two JO poles on 5 Hill Road, installing 2 poles with anchors to correct pole line accessibility.
Should be South Hill Road. I think
It's South Hill.
Not 5 Hill.
Oh, I thought that looks like okay.
It's South.
5 Hill Road.
South Hill.
South Hill?
South.
South Hill.
South. Sorry, guys, this is my first poll hearing. The pressure is on. All right, so is the applicant present? Yes. Are there any questions from the board?
Oh,
Any questions, Patrick?
Well, I'll just repeat Ron's question. Any trees come down?
You have to ask Donald.
Poles
Yeah.
are built in
That's-
What?
these 2 poles are in the middle of like an open yard, open field. So no, they're just being moved closer to the road so our utility trucks can actually get to them.
And Ron, we're okay with the mowing grass to put them in?
No,
Okay.
where's it in relation to the stream though?
And where is it in relation to the stream?
They are, I believe, before the stream. There's a
Mm.
stream before, so it's a small little bridge, and trying to recall, there's a pole line that is feeding this house, and these poles should be for it, or like ones before and then after the stream, but they're essentially going to be moved closer to the road because they're too far into the grassland to our liking. So we need to bring these poles up to standard and have them within 10 feet from a road so they're accessible to maintain.
Are they gonna get closer to the stream?
They're going to be the same distance from the stream that they are now. We're just bringing them horizontally towards the road. We're not bringing them closer to the stream or further away.
Okay.
Good.
All right. Anyone wish to speak in favor? Okay, go ahead.
It's our house. So
Okay.
yes, I would like to.
You should.
Well, that's a good reason.
yeah.
Okay, anyone want to speak in opposition of this man getting electricity? All right. I move we close the evidentiary portion of the hearing and move to deliberation by the board.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Hi, Chuck.
Hi, Jamie. Deliberation.
Go with it.
Do I have a motion to approve, deny?
I'll make a
accept?
motion to approve.
Second.
And a roll call vote.
Hi, Chuck.
Hi, Patrick.
Hi, Jamie.
Mhm.
So let's see, and I'll close the hearing. Do I have a second?
Motion to close.
Second.
And a roll call
Hi,
vote.
Chuck.
Thank you. All right, you have power.
Mhm.
All right, so those are done. All right, thank you. Permission to dedicate a bench. Who is here to speak? Anyone?
Thank you.
I'm here on behalf of the Griffin family, and they would like me to ask the board if it would be possible to put like a park bench somewhere on Elm Street in memory of Franklin, and it would be a bench with a plaque. My understanding is that the highway superintendent and his crew would be willing to put together a bench that is the same as other benches along Main Street. And we, the people who are interested in having it done will provide any money that's required to cover the cost of the construction or putting it there. Turns out there's only one spot on Elm Street that we would be allowed to do that because of ADA requirements and the width of the sidewalk. So we're suggesting hoping to get your approval to put it as a grassy area on Elm Street, almost when you get to Main Street. And it's near the curve of the library wall. So,
Opposite the library wall on the.
yeah, it's kind of opposite the library wall. There's a small patch of grass there.
Okay.
I was going to get it up on.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, I have
I
to,
thought there was a bench. Isn't there a bench by there? No?
Was there a bench there? I don't think so.
No.
Maybe the bike rack. So where the bike rack is.
bike racks around there.
There's a bike rack.
But that's movable.
There's a bench on the library property.
Oh, maybe.
Near their accessible entrance at the back, but
This is on the old corner house corner,
on the opposite side from the corner house.
along library side.
But before you.
When you go onto Elm Street, and before you get to the crosswalk to go to the post office, there's a grassy area. And that's where we're suggesting is it will,
There's some Adirondack chairs there now, I think.
no, that's
That's
on
not
library
for
property.
I have no problem with this.
I don't have a problem. I think it's lovely.
Okay.
Do we have to do a motion?
And what is Mike, what are you doing, Mike?
well, when we dropped off, we lost the host, so I'm trying to get the host back, even though we're live. Don't have control right now.
Who is the host?
Do we need to make a motion?
I make a motion, we approve the bench on Elm Street. Or-
In a second?
I got it back.
There you go.
Yeah, on that spot.
Okay.
So next to the sign.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Oh, that'll look good.
which way would be facing the sidewalk?
I think it'll be facing the sidewalk, facing the library, yeah.
Mhm.
I think that's a perfect spot for the
That'll
bench.
work.
Yeah.
That'll work.
We'll invite you to the dedication.
I think it's,
I think it's very
Mr.
sweet to
Ripley
think
was
of
an
him.
icon to this town.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Ripley was an icon to this town. I missed not seeing him out there on the street.
Yeah.
On Route
It's a
7.
Very sad event.
Yeah.
And I think this will be a great, in honor of his name. 100% behind it.
Thank you. Agree with that information to the family. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
That and.
All right.
Let's skip the next one.
Did you want me to show where it was?
No,
You
it's
could just
over.
show it,
online.
but if you have it.
Yeah, I was able to get back control of the meeting, just so people online know where we're talking about, because I know Rick, just showing the location, right where the Elm Street sign.
Which side of this, between the two, this?
So between the tree
Between
and
the tree and the sign,
or the
correct?
sign and the grass, or sign and the wall?
I would say between the sign and the.
Yeah, perfect.
Oh, that'll look nice.
That's
And you're gonna face the library or face the road?
face the library.
Face the library, right?
Facing the library, yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
That'll be used a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
that's a good spot.
All right.
All right. So now we're on to the municipal sign discussion. So before we get started, I'm going to ask that only one person speaks at a time, that everyone's civil. I understand that some people feel very strongly about a sign or many signs, but let's be respectful. What I would like to do, if it's okay, is talk about each one separately, because I think there are different feelings about each sign. I do want to point out that we did have the meeting initially. We had a select board meeting, we waited, we reviewed it, we voted. But I understand the optics, people have feelings and have changed their mind. That's okay, but I just want to say that we did follow procedure and Chamber of Commerce did their job. So with that, why don't we speak about the Old Town Hall Cemetery sign first and work our way through town? If that would be okay. So does anyone have any objection to the one by Old Town Hall and the cemetery? It's the one by the Congregational Church. Okay, good.
Jamie,
All right.
Jamie,
I expected that into it, Jim.
You do, Jenny?
Jamie?
Yes?
Yeah, so I wanted to, so you're taking comments for each sign one at a time?
So we're going to go through, we're just speaking about the one by Old Town Hall and the cemetery. I think it's
Okay.
going to be easier because, and some people have objections to many, but some people just have objections to one. So
Okay, so first of all, is my audio too loud or is it okay?
Okay.
Okay, all right, so, can I share my screen?
is this about the Old Town Hall Cemetery one?
I will go to that slide, yes.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay, so this is the cemetery slide. And my comment here is that you've got some redundancy going here. And you see the sort of the dented sign on the bottom in the foreground. And, you know, and then the other two signs on the post there. And I guess my suggestion would be that you don't need those signs if you're going to keep the new municipal sign.
Yeah, that sign should have,
Completely agree.
that sign should have been removed.
Yeah.
I think we were waiting for the decision on the green and white signs before we remove the metal ones.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so the next.
So-
Wait,
Jenny?
Yes, could Kate keep that sign up for a second?
Sure. Kate, can you show your picture?
Yes, 1 second, please.
Can folks identify themselves just so for the record, so that when people watch it?
Yeah, my name is Kate Fletcher, and I actually meant to say, I forgot to, that while I am chair of the planning board, these are my own comments, okay? And I know you have the letter from Laurel Hill and from the Stockbridge Land Trust, so I know you had those in your packets at some point.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Should I speak from?
Yeah, it should be moved to the phone.
Danny Alsop, 3 Main Street. Yes, I was riding my bicycle in that bike path about 10 days ago. And I was wearing all the yellow, bright yellow, everything, flashing lights. And I came to that intersection and a car came alongside me, behind me, and went at the same speed as I did as I was crossing, as I was entering, and I signaled with my hand, my intention to keep going straight. And the car kept going right alongside me, and then cut right in front of me. And with the left wheel on the grass of the triangle, and I was very nearly wiped out. And I think that sign, that kind of sign is inappropriate in that kind of an area. That's a very intensely used area. When the cars are about 50 or 100 feet this side of where this new sign is, they start to accelerate into that corner. It's like, okay, we're off Main Street. Now we can gun it for those good folks on Church Street, you know, and they really do. They take off right there. And I don't know if she was distracted by trying to read that sign, but that's the priority for the signage in an area like that should be safety. It should be about how vehicles are able to perceive what's coming at them. And so I strongly suggest that sign be moved elsewhere or be given further consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I just had an additional comment. Can you still hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, taking off from those dented signs there, you have more redundancy here. This is Route 102, but you've got more dented signs. And these are actually MassDOT signs that are purchased by the entities that are advertising. And as part of the deal, in this case, the nonprofits that have purchased the signs from MassDOT, they are responsible for the maintenance of those signs. So I guess I feel you have more redundancy here. And my opinion is that these are eyesores, these large, rather large, you know, width-wise dented signs. In New York State, they keep them much more compact. And they don't have, I've noticed in some areas at least, they don't have these multiple, you know, they've got the first two nonprofits and then two additional signs, it looks like. So I guess I would suggest that the entities be encouraged to remove these signs as well.
That does look a little like you're driving into South Carolina, doesn't it?
It does.
That's state, so it's out of our control.
Yeah. So
No,
then,
it is Chucky.
Yeah.
I respectfully disagree. These signs have been purchased from MassDOT by the organizations, and it is their responsibility to maintain them. Because
Yeah,
I've talked to MassDOT about this.
But they're on state land, state roads, I believe, aren't they? So
It is the responsibility of the organizations that purchase them to maintain them. And when you
Right.
talk to MassDOT,
Yeah.
you get into.
We have no control over those signs.
I think we might want to go back to the sign or.
Yes, okay.
yeah, let's stay germane to right now, and we can talk about that later. Let's go on to the Gould.
Well, wait, can we
vote on one
discuss
at a time?
now what to do with the first one? Because I like Danny's suggestion, and we have the metal ones are coming out. My suggestion is we remove the metal ones and move that away from the intersection to where the metal ones were originally placed. Would that be reasonable, Michael?
You guys can.
Hey, would you-
I don't think
Wait.
moving the
To
sign
where-
back's gonna help anything.
I think it takes it
just
out of the
like to-
intersection. Well, sorry.
Well, we need to realize that to move a sign costs $3,200. So we need to be judicious with how we want to do this, because if we're,
Why, doesn't highway move them?
no. it
Well,
costs-
we could try to move them, but whether or not they'll be damaged or not. If we had the installer move them, because you guys did choose these locations, there's no sightline issues with the signs. Those were looked at originally. So, you know, there isn't a sightline issue as far as just blocking a car's view or anything, whether or not somebody's peeking not paying attention to a bike drive.
that's-
Try to read, the sign was small type, yeah.
Well, we didn't always read the sign, could have been anything else, could have been just driving and forgot to make the turn. I mean, I almost had a bike on heading south on 7 because the biker didn't stop at the stop sign.
Yeah, but Mike
So,
Denny had the right of way and I mean.
Yeah, I'm saying, so that's, I don't think there's anything to do with the sign, to be honest with you.
I just,
Rick, yeah.
with respect to this specific sign, Rich Bradway, 92 East Main Street. I live on East Main Street. I work in Glendale, and I pass that sign probably 4 to 6 times a day. I would argue moving the sign further away from the intersection allows an individual to make a decision before they get to the turn. That's my point. That's my only simple point, is that one of the fundamental problems that I've been having with these signs, not that they exist, but simply that they're placed in a position that is in effect too late for them to be able to be of optimal use. Moving them back allows a person to look at it and then make a decision as they're turning into the corner or going straight, which would then avoid the potential issues that Denny brings forward. So I just bring that forward.
So moving it
Closer to Stockbridge.
closer, like towards the metal
Where the
signs,
existing signs are now.
or the metal ones, okay. So,
And I don't think there's a tree in that area. We did notice that the placement of the sign is where our tree is, and during summertime, it's difficult to read the sign besides the font issue.
Which is another reason.
that's a
to-
different issue, yeah.
I think there's no doubt. I think that maybe that informed why those original metal signs were put where they were, you know? And so I would suggest we take down the metal ones and relocate that. If that needs to be subject to an appropriation at town meeting, that's fine with me too.
It could either be that, could go to the, well, it depends on how many you're gonna move. So if we're gonna move
Right.
all of them,
Well, that's
and
why I
we're gonna
started
change
wanting
the
to talk
fonts
about
of
them
all
then.
all the slats, then
That's my thought.
we could go to the finance committee with a reserve transfer.
An
This would
emergency
be an
fund.
unexpected cost.
Or did this go under emergency?
So there's a couple of things we can look at, so that shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
You guys should make the decision based on the concerns that are raised here.
Right.
And we'll find the funding to, and you're aware of what the funding is.
Yeah, I just told. So the next one is Gould Meadow. Anyone want to speak for or against Gould Meadow? Rich, and then Ron, and then we'll go right up.
I'd like to speak on Gould Meadow.
Can I just make a comment before we do Google Memos?
Okay.
Michael and I discussed earlier in the week the idea of possibly moving it to over by the intersection of West Stockbridge Road, is it Richmond Road, whatever it's called, over the mountain
You
road.
brought that up, yeah, but you guys,
Right, and over by the entrance to Cropalo. So I just wanted to add that before the comments come in to see if folks might comment on whether that was acceptable to the folks who have an opinion on Gould Meadows.
Why don't we let them talk?
I'll just say what I was asked to say. So
Hi.
my name's Rich Bradway again, 92 East Main Street. I'm here as president of the Land Trust. I want to acknowledge that I have another trustee of the Land Trust. We both have opposing views on this particular sign. But I'm speaking on behalf of the Land Trust, the majority of the Land Trust, who asked me to write a letter, which you all received. I'm not going to read the letter other than to paraphrase a couple things. One of the primary objectives of the Land Trust is to preserve the scenic entrances to town, such as the vista overlooking Gould Meadows. I would just say this, and this is going to come off sounding snarky, but I really hope it's meant as something from the bottom of my heart, is that, you know, we don't have the Grand Canyon, we don't have Yosemite, we don't have Niagara Falls, but we have that view. And that view is one of the most pristine views in Stockbridge, if not all of Berkshire County. And so in our opinion, as being a pathway into town or into Stockbridge, this represents one of those scenic entrances that we would love to preserve. The other thing that we articulated, I just want to make it really clear that the Land Trust is not in opposition to the existence of these signs. We are not in opposition to them. However, with respect, and this has been brought up, and I know you're talking about that, we do feel that the signs as they exist now are hard to read. And I know I took a picture that was posted to the Stockbridge Land Trust website or to their Instagram page. I know that it's been talked about by many. But I took this picture of that sign, and what I wanted to try to establish is that the human eye, I was trying to recreate this photo so that as if I were a human eye looking at that sign. And the human eye has a focal length of, or effective, it's the same equivalent as a 16 to 24 millimeter lens on a camera. So I took a picture about 10 feet away from the sign so that I could articulate how, like if you look at this and you zoom it in, you can read the names of the institutions on the sign. But once you get into the road, they become illegible. And so the question I would ask, and this again is going to sound snarky, and I don't mean it to be, but who is the primary audience of these signs? Are they people who are driving? Are they people at a standstill? Are they pedestrians? Or are they all of the above? Because if it's anyone in a car, especially one driving, they aren't able to read that sign. And so the location of that sign, in addition to its typography, makes it impractical. So, thank you.
Ron?
Ron Broker, Chairman of the Conservation Commission and one of the founding members of the Gold Medals Restoration Committee. The sign kind of came as a wake-up call to us that we didn't know this was going on. It's been in the works for years and years, and then it showed up. Same as what Rich mentioned. If you drive into town, there's a sign, you have to stop to read it. And it's not a good intersection to stop at because most people don't know where they're going down that direction anyways. The view of the meadows, can't tell you how many hours we spent to improve that view. It was all overgrown, you couldn't see anything down through there. And now there's a sign there. It's bad enough the little Tangwood signs that are there 24 hours a day, but they're not permanent anyways. We're just looking at the sign's fine. You can't read it, but it's fine. Put it someplace else. That leaves the view the way it should be. It doesn't cause any accident problems for people that all of a sudden see a sign and say, where are we going to go? If there was a stop sign somewhere there that helped them out, that's the perfect place to put a sign like that where you have to stop and then you get to read what's there. But right now, and they're doing 40 miles an hour down through there. Just ask the police department. They're sitting there all the time somewhere on 183. 20 miles an hour is too fast to read that sign. So we're asking that it be removed, relocated, refurbished, whatever you have to do to put it and make it useful. But right where it sits right now, the majority of the people that worked on that project and have worked on it and are working on it think it's just a detriment to what we've done so far.
Thank you, Ron. And the gentleman next to Ron.
I second Danny. I second everybody. I see that sign all the time. Jim Hatch, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
For the record. And it really was a shock when that sign got put up there and did what it did to the view. And I concur with all I've heard already. I think also that it could be, if anywhere, placed across 183, get it out of the view, but could still provide, if somebody wanted to stop, despite all the traffic that goes through there. But I think there's no value added by that sign.
Thank you. And Tom?
Thank you. I'm Tom Stokes, 51 Interlaken Road. I'm wondering if Kate could put on the screen the picture, one of the first pictures she didn't have to, of the sign itself.
Sure, I can do that.
Thank
If
you.
I can talk after you.
What?
Oh, you are.
Bribery.
Go ahead.
Hold on a second. Excuse me. Hold on one moment, please.
While Kate is doing that, I just wanted to call the attention. There were, yeah, maybe the other one where you actually do see the sign, Kate? Okay, so thank you. So I spoke at your August meeting, so I won't really reiterate, but I totally agree that it's a safety issue. People stop there, that it's a busy corner, and people go off 183, turn on to Hawthorne Road. And if there's a car stopped there reading the sign, I think it's an accident waiting to happen. But I totally agree with what Rich was saying, how this is a pristine view. It's not the Grand Canyon, but it is a pristine view. And Ron and Tim Minkler and Arthur Dutiel spent hours and hours working there. And Jamie, with all due respect, you said there was a due process here. Everybody knew about it. They had a chance to talk about it, but people didn't know about it. The conservation, Ron, I believe you didn't know about it, right? He's part of the Restoration Committee, chair of the Conservation Commission. Conservation Commission owns the deed to the property. Yes, it's on town land. It's on the town right away. But I really think that it was the responsibility of this body, with all due respect, to contact the Conservation Commission, contact the Restoration Committee, and to be a little bit proactive to get their response to it. So I just did want to say that. One of the key people who organized the effort, who motivated the 492 people who gave money for the town to acquire this, was George Wislocki. And it happened that at his funeral service just a couple of weeks ago, his wife approached me, Alice, with a big smile. And she said, Tom, because that was George's last act in terms of preservation, the letter that he wrote to you asking you to reconsider that sign. So thank you, Patrick, for considering the other options. Worth considering. I would only ask, would that too be a safety issue? People slowing down, just as 183 sort of turns and goes down the hill, people are going at a pretty fast clip there. Would that too be a safety issue? It'd be better than where it is now, for sure, but that's a question that I'd ask. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Tom. Kate?
Oh, just that picture there, just one more second. Can you put it back, Kate?
Yeah, sure.
You just leave it up.
Well, I'm going to speak next, I hope.
Yeah, but
Can't speak for the sign.
Anyway, you'll see that Mary Flynn's bench is hidden by that sign. And Mary Flynn really, just the post to the left, that's the Mary Flynn bench, dedicated to Mary for her efforts to organize this effort. And that sign just blocks that bench.
thank you, Tom. Kate, do you want to speak?
Yeah, thank you, Jamie. By the way, thank you for running such a courteous and nice meeting. I really appreciate that. So this is the pre-existing sign. And, you can see, as Tom mentioned, Mary's bench there in the background. And it looks like the Concom has a nice, nice meadow management plan in place. I don't know what the goals for it are, but clearly there's a plan there. And I just feel it's this is one of the most iconic views in the Berkshires. And Rich, I actually think it's as great as Yosemite. I love this spot. And, and so many people can see it. So, and then, fast forward, this is a picture that I took this summer. And I just feel now you've got distraction here, sign sprawl. I question, with GPS, is this even necessary? And to me, it's not necessary. And if that's the case, rather than move it, just, admit, okay, it was a mistake and, I don't know, use it for kindling. I don't know. But, so
Excuse me, I don't think we should burn treated wood, right?
probably not.
All right.
But at any rate, I probably shouldn't have suggested that. That was a joke, by the way. But yeah, so I guess those are my comments on this sign. I just, I think less is, if we can keep this area as pristine as possible, that's what I would vote for.
All right. Thank you, Kate. Ron, did you have your hand?
Don't know the signs on that video.
This, the newer picture. you mean.
The last one, Kate.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Now,
Does each slat count as one?
no, not that part.
No.
Back to the gold medals one.
The Gould Meadow, yeah.
Now, the little stick in the ground sign, that comes and goes, the little metal one.
No, it's the one you were just on.
Back
Okay.
or forward, and right there.
Stop.
Good. Little green A-frame sign. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 of those there. They used to come and go. Now they became permanent.
Yeah, let's deal with
I
that.
had a little conversation. They started to come and go again.
Are those the Tanglewood ones?
Yeah.
We'll be dealing with that. Yes.
I've seen wedding pictures being taken at that location. Not gonna be there anymore, wedding pictures. Unless you get behind the signs, I suppose you could, but now people aren't even gonna look at the view to see this good place for wedding pictures. Just, it's proliferating. It didn't become a country road, it became a stopping place to make directions and things like that. There's too much going on there now. It's gonna cause accidents. If they can make the corners and find out where they want to go, that's great, but and there's permitting that should be allowed or included with some of this stuff. And there's the Mary Flynn bench and the little plaque on the sign there, the brown one. We have a plaque to go under the oak tree down there. Gold Meadows people. We've put together a plaque, stone plaque with the inscription on it. We mowed a path down to it. Well, actually Hugh did. The plaque itself, the stone, is at the highway garage right now, and we just have to set it in place. Probably next week it will be set. And we will keep a path mowed down to it or an opening of some sort. So that's the kind of thing that we're doing in this area, but the signs don't fit.
Thank you, Ron. Jim? Oh, Doug, because you haven't spoken.
So Doug Goody, 8 Cherry Hill. So a couple of things I'll say, we should go back to what these signs are for. These signs are not, unlike the blue signs where they're commercial signs done by commercial operators that just buy them. These are nonprofit cultural signs. So I think we need to just realize that they're here for the benefit of the community. We don't have big industry in Stockbridge. We have nonprofits. So these do hire a lot of people in town. The signs are, what was I say? The signs are also not necessarily overly readable. We could make them more readable, but they're going to be really obnoxious. This location does have a stop sign where you would be sitting there at Hawthorne Road waiting to take a right or left onto Route 183, and you would be able to read this sign. But with all that being said, I think we have to do what is right for the community, and you guys have done a great job with the Gould Meadow. And so it is beautiful. I mean, I think people still can stand behind the sign and take pictures. I can take a picture and not have to see of Mary Flint's bench and not see the sign as well. But the bottom line is that I think the selectmen just need to do whatever is appropriate to protect all interests. And if it has to be moved, I think moving it's great. But the bottom line is that this is also important for the town to have these cultural attractions protected. Just one other thing too, I don't think the signs were also meant as not, if you're coming at Tanglewood, you might not know that there's an Norman Rockwell Museum, or you might not know that there is something else. So GPS is not going to help that. So it's really about just awareness of what else is available in town while you're here, so.
Thank you, Doug. All right, so the next sign is the one by the Episcopal Church on that triangle of land where there's a monument on Main Street. Rich?
I feel like I'm Debbie Downer here, but once again, Rich Broadway, 92 East Main Street. I just want to, once again, now I'm speaking as a citizen of the town, not as the president of the Stockbridge Land Trust, although I do want to acknowledge that I do now sit with the Memorial Day Committee to help organize the annual Memorial Day activities. I just want to point out that the land on which the Civil War monument is placed, in 1866, the Selectboard of Stockbridge had an amendment to permit the installation of the Civil War monument.
I'm sorry, Katie, can you put up the signing question or take down whatever that is?
All right.
So
So in 1866, the Select Board of Stockbridge made an amendment to permit the installation of the Civil War monument. That monument was the second of its kind installed in the state and the first in the county. At that time, it was declared that no other item could be installed on the park to compete with the monument. I just want to also point out that that monument, that Civil War monument, and this has been, I've asked a few historians, including Rick Wilcox, who was here earlier, that of the people who participated in the Civil War, Stockbridge residents represented twice the average of most municipalities in the state in terms of those who fought and died in the Civil War. I then want to just sort of fast forward to the 1990s. In the 1990s, the state had put directional signs on that piece of land, and the town had cited the aforementioned bylaw or declaration and requested that the state move the sign to the corner in front of St. Paul's Church. So there is a precedence by the town to recognize that that piece of land should not have anything competing with it. And there is precedence that the town has worked with the state to move signs. And the last thing I'll just simply say is that I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but the Cat and Dog Park, the Civil War Park, and the park dedicated to Jonathan Edwards at the top of Church Street all have bylaws in place that no items may be installed on these lands. And I know at least for the last 2 or 3 decades, anytime any type of signage is installed on those lands, the police are instructed to remove that. So I just personally feel that, once again, I'm not in opposition to the existence of that sign. I would just like to see that sign moved. I would argue that a better location for that sign would be before the intersection, so that people can make a decision, especially if they're going northbound on Route 7, to make a decision whether they need to get in the left lane or the right lane. And the last thing I'll just simply say is that I did take a picture of the backside of that sign. And I unfortunately, I can share it with you all here like this, but if you look at the backside of that sign, there are directional elements to direct you if you're going southbound off of what is that, Pine Street or Pine Street? Pine Street. And it's on the wrong side of the intersection from where the cars are going to be able to read that. So I just simply state that, like, I think that, in my opinion, and this is going to sound crazy, But if we want to make something that is service to the people who are coming to the nonprofits, to place them in locations where it serves them best, I would argue that maybe you need a couple more signs for eastbound and westbound coming into town so that you have the ability to provide people with that information and that knowledge.
And can I ask? Yeah, sure. I think if we look at a moment in time, though, when we were making this decision, was at a time when the nonprofits in Stockbridge were under tremendous fiscal pressure. I don't know, has Norman Rockwell completely come out of the pandemic era impacts on its
This
budget?
summer, I would argue yes.
Over this summer.
Yeah, but let me just say a couple things.
Well, let me
Okay.
finish my point.
Sure.
My point is that when we're making this decision, many nonprofits had at least reached out to me, including the one that you work for, and talked about the tremendous pressure that their annual budgets were under, to the point of where they were projecting losses that were a quarter to a third of what their entire endowment was. Okay, and none of us had any idea what that recovery would look like or how long it would take to get folks back on their feet. Not everybody is Tanglewood with $600 or $700 million in the bank.
Sure.
Okay, and I would I understand everything that's been said today about the aesthetics of these signs, but I would just encourage you that when you, from my perspective, sitting in one of these chairs, that the health of these organizations coming out of the pandemic was the most important thing to me. Not whether or not the font need to be a little bigger, or not whether or not there should have been 3 slots instead of 8 slots, and frankly, not in terms of what kind of view it was blocking. I don't know, people can close your eyes and imagine what happens to this town if one of these nonprofits stops being a going concern, because you're talking about a situation where, they have assets and those assets get auctioned off and they turn into housing, they turn into private land, they turn into not available open space to the public. These are serious concerns when what we're going through, we're serious times. And I would just encourage everyone, as we now figure out in better times what to do with these signs, to give us just a tiny bit of a break, because we had other things on our mind, not just the placement of these signs.
Can I rebut that, please?
Sure.
May I? Or I just want to
Yes.
answer. I'm just going to say a few things. I started working at the Norman Rockwell Museum 9 years ago. Okay. During that time, there were frequent instances before these signs ever existed, and the ones that we're talking about that are all being done. There were multiple instances where people would complain that GPS couldn't tell them where the Norman Rockwell Museum was. Okay. Fast forward 9 years. Google Maps and everything, every GPS system right now has got our address right, to the point that in October, let me finish. In October, we averaged at least 800 people a day with no complaints about how to get to the museum by GPS. You benefited from the signs that you put in. I also just want to indicate that I am not against the existence of the signs. I'm just against the location of this sign and the one at Gold Meadows. And then the third thing I'll just simply say is that, in addition, what I want to acknowledge is the great work of the Stockbridge Chamber of Commerce with respect to the advertising that they place on WAMC and other places that bring knowledge and awareness to the nonprofits that are in this town. And I would argue that those do as much benefit or if not more than the signs that were placed and installed in this town. So
Thank you. And so if we could get back, if there were any other people that had something to say about the church town triangle area.
Jamie, I'd just like to.
Okay, go ahead.
Just like to, can I speak or do you want me to wait?
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I'd just like to second Rich's idea in terms of focus on advertising and social media and so on. And GPS in Stockbridge is working very well. I just think that the best thing we can do for businesses, nonprofit or for-profit, is keep this town as beautiful as possible and free of sprawl, and that includes sign sprawl. And then if I can just, plug for the cat and dog fountain. I'll just make my final plug here. Whoops. Are you still sharing, Michael?
Yep.
Okay,
I think we read that one before. Oh,
okay. These are our town pets. And I would love to keep this area clear of signage. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. So anyone else? I don't want to, Denny, do you have anything else? Oh. Carl.
Gale Hill. You know, I think the sign is completely unnecessary. There at the Civil War Monument, but if it's a question of moving it, I second Kate with regard to the fountain, and speaking on behalf of St. Paul's Church, don't screw us up there too, please. You know, just like, good.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
And Jenny.
Well, when I spoke about the, I've learned from what people have said this evening. And when I spoke about the monument down at the end of the west end of Main Street, I spoke from a personal point of view, from an experience where I felt that that sign had created a hazard and that I was very nearly the victim of that. But I understand that's kind of a selfish and self-interested point of view. I do live about 70 yards to the west of that point. What I hear here is something that I celebrate about the people in this room and you and all of us, which is our love of this town and the extraordinary depth of tradition, and you know that we're still aware of the sacrifice made in you know, the Civil War, and Harold French, who was here earlier, who decorates my grandfather's grave, and various other veterans who've served going back to the Revolution. The beauty of Gould Meadows, the places where people stand to take photographs of the Red Lion Inn, and down at the west end of Main Street where they turn and imagine Norman Rockwell and his family bicycling by the Chimes Tower. And we all care about that. And then I realized that right behind the spot where that sign is the ancient burial ground of the founders of our town. Jonathan Edwards Memorial is there, the second minister of the church. John Sargent is there, the Native American first members, proprietors of Stockbridge are buried there, those that are not in the Indian burial ground. That's a really, really special part of our town down there. And I don't think we should be putting up signs that take us away from the experience of being here. It's one of the wonderful things about coming to Stockbridge is being where you are and seeing what's there and imagining the history and that we all benefit from. So
thank you, Jenny. So I hope that everyone had time to speak. And so I want to acknowledge that something Tom said, Tom Stokes, that I didn't know that the committees were not contacted. Sorry for that oversight. And I want to thank the chamber. They did what they were tasked to do. And I don't think that we should throw the signs away. They are, and we do want to support our nonprofits. I don't exactly know how, if we have to vote on each sign or deliberate on each sign, or how we want to do this, or if we want to move it to, since it's getting so late, do we want to have time to think about it? Like, any thoughts?
I would like to step back, meet with the chamber, look at all these options that came up, see what we can do. I'm not gonna vote one way or another tonight. It's just too much to digest and
Can we do that?
And I think that there are solutions out there that we can do, but I don't want to rush this. Yeah.
Are you okay, Patrick?
I would like Michael and the chamber to get together and come up with some recommendations based on the feedback they've heard tonight. And I think we should try to get on, not put it off for a long time.
No, just a week or like another cycle,
Yeah,
like
yeah, that's right.
January, February,
yeah. Could we do it after the holiday?
after the holidays.
Yep.
They need time to go over.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that okay with everyone?
And if,
Would you notify everyone?
Yes, of course.
Definitely.
and I don't have any problem with,
You were the first one I'm gonna call.
Because
you know, I don't have any problem with,
moving them.
if someone else wants to volunteer from the public who had strong opinions going the other way, I think that I would welcome their participation, whatever meeting in between meetings occurs. Anybody want to,
If somebody's in it,
yeah, like,
for them or against them or what?
yeah, that's right. I
I would
mean,
be willing to.
I think it would be great if Georgia was also invited to that meeting.
Oh, okay.
Well, it'll be an open.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, it'd be
It'll be an
open.
open public meeting.
No, not the one with
Well,
Michael.
Michael, with you.
Right,
Oh, with
Okay.
Michael.
yeah.
I'll come back with some recommendations for the board to consider.
Excellent.
Is everyone okay?
Jamie, can you keep me in the loop?
Yes, Kate, we'll keep you in the loop.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see. So, fire EMS and,
We're skipping the Stockbridge Mohican.
oh, did I skip one? Oh, sorry. The Stockbridge Mohican Commission appointments. And who's speaking on that?
Go ahead, Patrick.
Are you?
I'd be happy to. You know, I proposed the commission to both the Mohicans and this board, both of whose governments have approved them, and both to this board and to them. We floated the idea of the initial three appointees being Rich Bradway, Rick Wilcox, and me. And if there's no objection to that, I would like to make a motion to that effect.
Yeah, and we brought this up because this came up earlier when we put it out to the public, like we always do.
Yeah.
That's why I'll make a motion that we appoint the three.
And do we need anyone else on it?
Well, there are three.
Just three?
Well, there's three from each. There's the Stockbridge Muncie have proposed Shannon Halsey, the president and head of the tribal council. We're not appointing them though. They're appointing their own.
Okay.
And as well as Bonnie Hartley, who is a local cultural liaison, I believe, and then yeah, and
but I say what the purpose of this commission is.
The purpose of this commission is to discuss various things that come before the town, like the signs or like the acquisition of the Monument Mountain. There's a lot of open items that we're looking at where we're talking about, their participation in the Revolutionary War Monument, because there were two regiments back in the day, and the 250th anniversary of the country is coming up, and to just frankly improve communication with some of the original peoples who not only inhabited this land, but whose capital city was this land, and I think that's why they've shown an interest in that. Why don't you say that better than me?
What Patrick said, I will just say that whenever you work with the Stockbridge Muncie community, they work by unanimous decision. So they are very deliberate and they take a lot of time. And so if there are particular things that we would need to do or want to do, which they could be anything from like the creation of a Revolutionary War memorial. It could be additional work around addressing what they're doing with respect to Fenton Farm. It could be bringing broader awareness to what Stockbridge, the land of the town of Stockbridge represents in terms of the Stockbridge Muncie, so that town residents have a better understanding of what this place means to them, especially as we start dealing with new constructions like you're speaking to today. There are opportunities where just having a broader and more open dialogue and being able to be more proactive so that we're not always in reaction to situations that then become protracted because of either our own municipal protocols and processes or their product protocols and processes.
Anything that's brought up that needs to be done will be passed by the board.
Right. So the committee basically works together and then they come back to their respective entities to.
The advisory board.
They are not, they hold no power. They just simply coordinate.
Perfect.
So.
And you guys are only appointing the 3-member commission of this town because that will be the quorum requirements and the rest, because you'll still be subject to the open meeting law as a committee. So.
Okay.
So no coffee with Rick Wilcox is what you're saying.
To talk about the Muncie Indians.
Yes, with your jurisdiction. Yeah.
All right. Do you need a motion?
I made a motion.
Motion second.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, fire
By the way,
EMS.
before we move on, Sherry, the tribal liaison, has requested a meeting sometime between the 14th and 29th. A number of people have expressed an interest in attending that meeting because they are going to be public meetings. So I just want to let people know that we'll get that posted as soon as we hear back in the next day or two about a specific time and date. Thanks.
Thank you, Patrick. Fire EMS and approve the appointment of Vincent Garofoli, as joint Stockbridge, West Stockbridge chief for remainder of fiscal year 25.
Can I ask that we just appoint Vin and push the update till the next meeting? We still have an executive session and a whole bunch of other things, and this meeting is going a little
Just have
long.
minutes.
I mean, we could just appoint Vin and get a larger update, because there's a lot of questions the town may have about fire and EMS that's so important.
Okay.
It's your prerogative. Yep.
That's fine with me.
We can
You're
move.
not gonna- Oh, okay. Unless you'd rather not.
No, that's fine. We can skip next.
All right. Can we approve the appointment?
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion approved the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so now we're going to go into executive session. Do I have
Any
a,
announcements?
any community events happening in the next week?
Community announcements.
Okay, but
You had asked to put it on.
Yeah.
well, I thought we were going to talk about past activities.
We're not coming back into session. This is it.
No, I was just under it wasn't so much about community events that were upcoming. It was about activities that
No, you asked specifically about
Community events.
events coming up. You said that the toy drive.
Oh, yeah.
That's specifically what you asked it.
Right. It's getting late. Yeah, so I had a conversation with both, Kathy at Pinewoods and Andrea at Heaton Court about doing a gift drive for members of those two communities, like a candle for the elderly and toys for kids at Pinewoods. So there'll be information on the website about how to donate either gifts or to an Amazon card, Amazon gift registry for those communities. And I just want to put that on the radar so that, people would know about it. Thanks.
Thanks. Anyone else have a community event to announce? Seeing none, we're going to make a motion to go into executive session.
Read the announcement.
Where is it?
Right here. Just read.
Oh, okay. According to thank you everyone for coming and sharing. General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, 7, Purpose 7, to review executive session minutes from December 12th and 19th, 2019, January 23rd, 2020, and February 4th, 2020, to determine if they will be released pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 22F.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.